So my name's Amit Kucheria. I'm tech lead for the 96 boards effort at Lenaro. And this talk is more of a workshop. So it's not like a presentation. It's more of a workshop, a discussion about the mezzanine ecosystem around 96 boards. So please ask questions. Please make your views known here. We are here to collect feedback. So the current situation, it's been organically growing. People are just making mezzanines that they need. Several of our ODMs that we are working with, Arrow, Archimind, they're just going out and making mezzanines that people are asking for. Nothing has been planned so far. So some of the discussion points that I have for today is just a quick overview of what mezzanines are available in the market, and then how to improve the testing of mezzanines across boards, because a lot of these mezzanines are being tested on maybe only one or two of the 96 boards family. Then there's ideas for new mezzanines. We're looking for new ideas. Some discussion around should we have stricter guidelines, maybe some compliance around what a mezzanine should look like. I mean, things like, should we put an EEPROM on there to have, with a device tree blob, to do auto-configuration? So those sorts of discussions. I'm encouraging some of that. So what do we have currently? This is the most popular one, so let's just get this out of the way. You need the serial port. A lot of other mezzanines are now providing serial port. So, I mean, the reason for this might go away, and maybe a future version of the specification might make this not required. So here's what we have on the sensors. So there's a bunch of boards here, starting with the one that was announced on Monday. So that's the Neon Sensor Hub. There's something from ST. It has PWMs along with other Grove sensors. Arrow has done one with the linker sprite interfaces, and this one was created at in Lenaro, so it's a typical Grove kit. I/O, we've got everything. We've got the first one. The Neon is actually a 1.8 volt I/O. Everything else, I think, supports 3.3 and 5 volts, so you have a step up there as well. Please feel free to interrupt at any point, please. On cameras, we have these at the moment. So Arrow was just demonstrating the D3 mezzanine, which is capable of 2 CSI, so 2 cameras. Do you know when it hits the market? End of March. End of March? Okay. ST has a board. It's got a CSI on there. This one here is the AeroCore 2. So that's designed for the drone community, but it's got a CSI on there. So you can fit a camera there. And this one, the AI Star Vision. So that's done by the community. So someone actually just took the spec and designed their own board. I think they're selling it for cost. Robert, do you know what price they're selling that for? Yeah, 25 or 30, depending on camera. So it's $30 with a camera module. Okay. So that's what's already available for cameras. Displays. So we have either HDMI or MIPI DSI. So the first one to the right there is an HDMI display from Lenovator, I believe. And then there's, no, actually that's from Linksprite. This one's from Lenovator, so this is a DSI. And this one's again the AeroCore 2 mezzanine that has DSI on there. Connectivity. So Arrow was displaying the LoRa module this week at their booth. And we are told that there is work going on the Ethernet module. So there's going to be a Ethernet PoE mezzanine being designed. Hopefully it'll hit the market soon. Finally, security. So Archimind was displaying the Retina and fingerprint scanner this week. They've tested this on the X20 Pro, and is being launched as part of the ecosystem around the X20 Pro. But there is no reason that this shouldn't work on other boards. So we are trying to get some samples and see how it works on other boards. Now the problem there is that this will require calibration tools. And apparently those calibration tools aren't free, they're commercial grade. So we have to figure out if there is an open source version available that's good enough for the community, or we'll just have to point you to the vendors selling the calibration tools if you want to acquire these modules. And there is talk about a TPM mezzanine as well. So, so that you can basically blow fuses, have your own key on there, have the whole secure boot infrastructure. So that's being worked on, and that should hit market soon. So I think that is it as far as the current availability of mezzanines. Any comments? Is there anything I missed here? No? All right. So we have started to look at verticals. Now, the verticals I've listed here, they aren't very strict verticals. They're sort of a mix of functional and industry verticals. So when I say functional, it's okay, I want to make a robot, I want to make a drone. That's functional. But then if you look at healthcare or automotive, that's like an industry vertical, and it encompasses a lot of things. So this is sort of a mix, and please help me out here because there's just so much happening in this area. It's just hard to keep track. For my own purposes, I came up with this sort of table saying, okay, what do we need when we are trying to address some of these verticals? What sort of mezzanines, what sort of functionality would be needed? And so I said, okay, inputs, sensors, cameras, outputs, displays, actuators, you want to run drive motors and whatnot. And I tried to basically go through this saying, okay, for robots, I definitely need sensors, I definitely need cameras. I don't need a display probably for most robots, but I definitely need actuators, so that sort of thing. So I mean, the table is self-explanatory. And to be honest, I mean, the way things are going, I mean, some of this might change. I mean, you might want, I don't know, even with signage, you might want sensors on there which detect when people walk closer to the signage, and so that sort of thing. So I mean, this is set in stone. It's just a quick way of visualizing what is needed to build these sorts of applications. But I'm sure there's people in the audience who have studied this a lot more than I have. I think I've spent maybe 2-3 hours thinking about this stuff. I know there's people who are thinking about this for their day jobs. So is there anything we would like to add to this? Sound?
Yeah, on the list of outputs.
Sure.
And inputs.
So there is, from our there's an audio SD card that has headset jack and microphones on it.
Yes, I missed that one. So
does it have line in?
Sorry?
Does it have line in?
Not really.
Boo, boo.
It has a 3.5 millimeter jack, which gives you one microphone, and then it's got another microphone on the board.
So the audio ones are interesting because the 96 board spec doesn't require you to do a lot around the audio except the I2S interface. So we've seen board vendors put their own custom analog connector. I know the Dragon board has done that, and the MediaTek X20 has done that as well. So those are going to end up being non-standard.
But to that point, I mean, we've had multiple conversations on the Dragon board. Originally, we put a male connector on the E20, and so I think there could be some more specification. If you're, at least some best practices that you could call out. That if you're going to put an external header, use the same type, use the same pitch, so that the potential for more interoperability is there. Because right now, the mezzanine board is pretty much exclusive to the 410C.
Yes.
We're going to depopulate it on the 820 so we can use it there as well. But I mean, even just those little kinds of things, it would be helpful to have better guidance on, so people aren't all doing
Great.
I mean, to be honest, on soundboards, if people are paying to put a mezzanine on top that's not enabling the audio of the thing, they're going to be thinking about I2S and the space that the Cirrus card for Raspberry Pi does. So it has, you know, a high spec DAC and ADC, and if people are buying a board to go on top to do audio, they're going to be looking for those high-end features. And line out is my particular bugbear because the microphone inputs aren't enough for so many applications.
Yeah, so you mentioned DAC, and I sort of wrapped all that up into media because I think of home theater, hi-fi DACs. I mean, that's sort of my use case. I mean, I have a Raspberry Pi taped to every TV in my home, for example, with a nice DAC. So yeah, I'd love something like that. All right. So yeah, I mean, some of the verticals, some of the mezzanines that actually try to address the vertical, so the aero core here. I'll let you read the specs. I haven't gotten my hands on one of those, but I plan to and see how well it works across maybe a couple or 3 boards. Because my interest really is to see if the ecosystem evolved to the point where I can actually use this across boards, not very custom boards for each board, not custom mezzanines for each board. Is there anybody here who's actually worked with this board? They claim they're PX4 compatible, so it should be interesting.
What is PX4?
So someone who actually does drones more than I do, I'm just jumping into this, but it's a hardware and Lawrence, do you want to take this? So I forget what the what PX4 stands for, but it's basically a piece of software that can drive your IMU, and it's open source. And there is a bunch of hardware out in the community that claims to be PX4 compatible and that can run that piece of software. It might call.
So Robert, on open hours, you had a segment where a guy came and showed that it was the AeroCore 2, right, running the drone. Did they release their code? Did they point to a GitHub repository for examples?
Yeah, so the person who's working on this at Gumsticks, his name is Keith Lee, and he did do 2 episodes on open hours. There is various blogs and instruction sets on how to recreate along with the bomb. So basically you can buy he did it on the Dragon board, though he did claim that it should work on other boards, and you can buy all the parts, follow the instructions, and should have a working drone by the end of the blog and the instructions.
Does it support ROS? I have no idea. But I'll take an action because I'm going to get one of those boards to play with. So yeah, there's a couple of specialized mezzanines. So Lawrence mentioned the audio mezzanine for the Dragon board, and then there's the LTE mezzanine that people who've stopped by the Archimind booth will see. There's a big mezzanine that goes under the X20 Pro. Apparently, it can handle frequencies for the entire world. They just need to program it with the right firmware. Is there anyone from Archimind here? In the demo room? Okay. So yeah, I mean, this is just one observation. I was just looking at what chips are being used on the mezzanines themselves. So the Atmega that goes onto the Arduino and the STM32F4 seem to be the popular ones that people are using for the mezzanines. Just an observation. Resources available. So I did speak to a bunch of people this week about who wanted to design their own mezzanines. And so this is what we have currently. And then there's a bunch of actions we need to take to clean this up. So you have a template for KiCad to design a mezzanine. Gumstick has, I think, the
Geppetto.
96 boards mezzanine as part of Geppetto. And we have the design files for the UART mezzanine. They're open. And I'm told that the new sensor hub mezzanine, the neon sensor hub mezzanine that was announced on Monday, we'll open up the design files for those as well. So those should be enough for people to start with. Take that and then go design your own mezzanines. We have some documentation on how to use the sensors mezzanine as well, but that's something I think where we are lacking. So all the mezzanines that I've shown you, it's scattered all over the place. So I think one of the actions which I'm going to take with Robert and see if we can actually gather the documentation up and maybe even go through the process of how to get each one of these mezzanines working with the 96 board onto our website.
For the Arduino ecosystem, there's at least one website that compares all the various shields that are available and in particular which connectors they are using. Is there anything like that available for 96 boards?
Not yet.
The main use case for that is trying to find out if you have a set of mezzanines available that are all specific to one task, to find out whether you can actually stack them to have several functions of that used in parallel and still also have a serial adapter on top, because there's at least for other ecosystems, there's many boards for the Raspberry Pi that actually occupy RX and TX boards.
Agreed. I think we're running late. I'm going to skip to what is my last slide here. Yeah, the need for standardization. Should we enforce some standards around that? So you brought up a good question about stacking, because a lot of the mezzanines aren't actually exposing the low-speed connector on the top. So there's absolutely no way to stack at this point. So should we require that? So that signals that you're not using on the mezzanine could be reused by other mezzanines. Lawrence?
I don't think you should require it because then it constrains all of your mezzanines to having pass-through connectors. And then you say, do I need to pass through high speed? You start getting into this whole can of worms. So I think that very rarely do you use two mezzanines stacked. I mean, you're taking a board, you're adding a mezzanine for a particular task, but you're not trying to add multiple tasks simultaneously.
So what you're saying is that we are going to encourage an ecosystem where we have one mezzanine per task. We don't try to stack them together.
That's all of the mezzanines you've seen so far. That's what you've seen.
Yes, indeed.
And I don't think you're going to try to get the board to do multiple tasks simultaneously.
So it's not multiple tasks. It's more like, say I need PoE Ethernet. So I take that mezzanine and then I want sensors on top of that. I mean, that is a valid use case in my opinion.
So the first thing you're going to find with that is you've got an Ethernet connector on top of that PoE Ethernet connector, and it's blocking physically putting the next card on top. Are you going to force them all to be only 7 millimeters tall? Because then you can't do PoE.
Yeah.
I mean, the HS thing is also the fact that a lot of the 96 boards are not required to have a HS connector. That's only present in the consumer edition. And mezzanines for other editions won't have the HS connector to play with anyway.
Yeah.
So less regulation seems to be the
I
mantra.
guess the comment, is we've come out with a couple now, and the one question that we've had to that point is the ability to put the UART board on top of it, right? So that's the use case that's already come to me by several people, is specifically for the audio or for the camera board, is, hey, it would have been nice if we could put the UART on top of that so that we could have our control, talking to it in and of itself. So that's the only use case that I know of specifically is, now you could require that every board has a UART on it.
Yeah, I mean, several mezzanines are doing just that. I mean, so sensor mezzanines are just putting a UART on there, so.
I guess you could still, without requiring it though, you could have some sort of a best practices kind of guide, right? You could set up something where here are things to consider. You don't necessarily have to do it, but if you want to be more compatible with multiple boards, keep it to this size, or consider bringing it out so people could put the UART, or I think there are some things that as we start coming out with more that people will learn that could be compiled somewhere in some sort of a guideline, not necessarily a requirement document.
So I'll take that action for the guidelines. Let's start working. So anybody who's actually interested here, I encourage to join the mezzanines list. So we can actually continue this discussion. I don't want to be a bad citizen here. There's the next session, people are waiting for this. But here's some ideas for other mezzanines that I feel are required in the community. But I would like to take this to the mailing list and have a discussion around that, or even after this session. But let's get out of here first. Thanks.